What's up, I'm a Power Addicts crew. Do you guys have onboard air, like an onboard air compressor? Or do you have an onboard welder? Or do you just have the need to be able to control your throttle by hand? Ta-da! That's what we're putting in today. Want to know how to do it? Let's go. So the first thing you need to do is remove your shift knob. And what's got to happen, there's going to be a bushing or rubber bushings that come down on top of this right here. Then you take your throttle control here, throttle control lever, go around that bushing and clamp it down to hold it in place. Well, hopefully that bushing is easy to work with, because this is not a factory Jeep shifter. This is actually a shifter out of an S10. That down inside here, when I originally got the Jeep, there's nothing but a piece of the shifter sticking up. It's just a little stalk or stub sticking up. So for the longest time, I had a piece of metal tube stuck over the shifter. I mean, just literally hanging over the shifter, and drove it like that for a while. Then this right here come off of a T5 out of a S10. I welded this together down here, and right there I can actually separate the shifter, unscrew it, and take it off. But yeah, so this is tapered, and a Jeep is actually, one solid diameter all the way down through there. So I'm not sure how this is about to work out. So your Jeep setup will be easier because it's going to be a constant diameter versus mine's tapered. So I'm about to see how this is going to work out. So the bushing that I was referencing going to go right there is this thing right here. Yep. We're going to drill a hole in that thing. Because I was just making sure that I was going through the directions and looking, okay, does this thing get used anywhere else? Because I'm assuming that I'm going to drill a hole for the shifter. And you look right there, it kind of looks like it. And I look through the directions and I'll see it being used anywhere else. So I was referencing the bushing that's going to go right there for us to mount the shifter on. And I'm looking through the directions. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I'm looking through the bill of materials. Where is this bushing? I'm looking through the BOM here. I don't see anything that says, hey, that's the bushing. Nope, sure don't. And number 9 right there says, that's the seat. And what I'm not seeing is, looking through the directions, I'm seeing a rubber bushing over shifter for a good tight fit. You may have to ream out the bushing with a drill to fit over your shift lever. Do not remove too much, because then you won't get a good tight fit. Then you screw it on, bracket goes out underneath the hood. Flip over here. Run the cable through the lever that goes through the grommet on your firewall. Then you got to screw your little L bracket down to your under dash bracket, which this is for. They're showing a TJ engine on this right here. We'll have to figure that out for the YJ. Should be easy enough though. And here, so it's not showing this being used anywhere. My only assumption can be is to drill this rascal out to fit over that, because this, once tightened down, will be about right. Get in there. See? Once it's snug down good, it's going to be about right, because two things are going to happen. I'll drill a hole through this so it'll fit over the shifter, which is going to cause this to expand a little bit. Then as you tighten down this screw here, it's going to squeeze under that bushing. So yeah, I'm going to find me a drill bit and bore this rascal out to fit that. So I used a 3/8 drill bit and kept boring that sucker out till finally I got enough that it would stretch over those threads, and kind of forced it down over top of it. As you can see, it did expand out quite a bit, and now my lever, I'm going to take and loosen that screw up to the point that it's going to wrap around that, and hopefully I'm going to have enough threads to grab hold of it. Now with an actual Jeep shifter, like I said, this is an S10 shifter. With an actual Jeep shifter, you may not have that problem because of the S10 shifter. I have the S10 shifter stock. I know it's going to blow somebody's mind. How'd you put an S10 shifter in? It's not. Down here is an AX15 shifter. This is welded to the AX15 stub sticking up. This came out of an S10. So I'm going to try to push it up a little bit and see if it will drop that diameter down a little bit so I get up here close. Because it's going to sit like that. And so I'm going to get over there on the driver's side, put my hand placement on there, so I figure, do I want it this way, or how do I want it to make it the most comfortable and useful for me? So, yep, I'm going to try it out. So I've decided I like it in this direction here, as per the directions. So now I can just take my finger, work the throttle like it right there, much easier. So now let's figure out what we got to do under the hood, then we'll run the cable out there. So as far as this little contraption right here that mounts to your bracketry by your throttle body over there, this is what I have figured out the best way to make this work. As you see the hole through there, that's where your cable is going to run through, as you can see here in a little bit. This little tiny nut right here was originally screwed in behind here. My thought process was that they have forgotten one of the nuts, because if that was a locked nut back here like it would be on a bicycle or something like that, that would be how you adjust your cable in and out for really detailed adjustments. So I was kind of like, if that's got to stay back there, this nut right here screws on the top of this up here to keep this right here from twisting and rotating. That really leaves nothing to tie into out here. So that's not going to work. So I went through my bolts, being stuff like that. This turns out to be like a metric, like an 8 by 1.0 or something like that. Didn't have anything like that. Core 20, I could have made it work, but I didn't want to go that route. So what I ended up doing is taking that little bitty nut off from right there, threading it all the way through, the little nut up there with the washer here that comes with the kit. This washer right here came with the kit with that extra pack of washers, as you see that these right here, and this right here is like a mount screw that I'm not going to use because I went a different route with that. So there was an extra washer in with him right there that went right there, and I tightened that up, and I think it's going to work. So of course you see this right here, already the hole is already there. Okay, let's head over to the throttle body. Let's look at something real quick. Let me take this with me. So here's your throttle body, here's your throttle lever here. Your cable's got to run through here, all the way down to there, and it's going to pull your throttle, on. Yeah, well, not really it's going to be like, just because you're going to run your onboard air, or if you have to have onboard welder, or if you want to use hand control to help climb a hill or something. That's what this is all about. And so, the way this mounts is I drilled a hole through the bracket right there that is very much, pretty much, if you were to project a line from the center of this hole here, like you got this line here, project it straight down, that is about in the middle of where that would come through at, okay? So this bracket here is going to bolt through that hole there and mount in like that right there. So then your cable comes through here, comes through that, comes down through your throttle body, ties onto the throttle body so you can go, rev it up, pick up your RPMs for your onboard air or onboard welder, whatever your case may be. So that is pretty much the way I got this set up. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to open it, screw the hole up just a little bit more. I want to run a 1/4 bolt through that instead of using the hardware that come through with it, that came with it. Simply because this is the bolt that came with it. Phillips head screw, and a little bit long, a little bit too long for what I've got to do. Coming through the YJ bracket here, if I was to mount that, I'd have a whole lot of thread sticking outward right here. Not really a big deal, but you cannot mount it like that because this will hit your cable. It'll bind into it and it won't work, period, put it that way. So it's got to be done like this. So then you got to take your Phillips head screwdriver, come in from an angle this way to get into it to hold it in place. Will it work? Probably yes. Does it sound like the best solution? Not really. So I've got a core 20 bolt over there that's like a 1/2 inch long that I'm going to use to mount that in with. So I'm going to open it, hold up just a little bit more so that core 20 will go through it. So I have the core 20 bolt in place holding the brackets. Now if I'd used this right here, look how far that'd been sticking out through there. That thing would have been like, a hazard. Stick your hand inside there and you got the edge of that screw sticking out to gouge you and cut you and stuff. And the bolt is setting right flush at the end of the nut right there, so it's actually a really good fit. So I'm going to put this cable adjustment piece in. We'll run the cable. Now I may end up having to adjust this a little bit because the cable needs to come through the square here, come through there, and be as straight as possible hitting this. So when it pulls the throttle, it's not binding or rubbing on the edge of that adjuster or anything to wear your cable out prematurely. Cool. Alright, I'm going to put that in right there and we'll run the cable, see what happens. So I've got the adjuster set up inside there. This part right here, I'm leaving it loose. I went and snug this bolt up. So, you know, it's not really going to hold itself from rotate, but once you put this in place, it kind of helps it keep from rotating things. So I'm going to go ahead and run my cable on through. At that point, once I figure out how I need to adjust, then I'll snug this right here up and make this part right here tight. Take your cable out of the pack and unwind it. Now once you got your cable all unwound, take at the end without the ball. See right here, you got this molded ball on this end. Don't have one on this end. Take this end, feed it down through the shifter, the lever, or whatever it is you want to call it. Feed it down through there. You see it come down the bottom, pull it all the way through. And right there is bottom down the shifter. So whenever you pull the shifter, it's going to pull the cable, but you're going to have your sleeve button up against this. And our sleeve is right there. So let me unwind this. Then what we'll do, I cannot do that on camera because I need both hands. We'll feed that through the cable. Now once you get that fed through your throttle lever here, as you pull up, it's going to pull up on the cable. It's going to slide through the outer jacket, which is going to make your throttle rev up as you need it. So what we do at this point, now we take the outer sleeve, unwind it, straighten it out, feed this through that. So basically what you do is, it doesn't matter which end, you take your cable, put it into the jacket, and just feed it on through until it comes at the other end. So once you get through running your cable through all this, you're going to have a lot of it left over coming outside that jacket. So what we're going to do is, there's a grommet under the dash that your wiring harness goes through right there. I'm going to push the cable out that right there. We're going to bring it out, loop it around, and bring it into here. And that grommet is like right, like where your and that grommet's like right along in here where this cigarette lighter and your ashtray stuff is. Directly behind is where that's going to be. But I got all my wiring messed in behind it. So, yep, right there where it's going through. All right, my crew, we're going to finish this up tomorrow because it's dark and it's raining. So, yeah, get my tools picked up. Now, once you get your cable fed through the firewall, got your little bracket piece here, your adjuster set in place. Yes, it's a little bit loose because may have to adjust it a little bit. Feed your cable through, like so, and make sure it hangs on everything so you can't pull it. Get over here, and that's got to come down over here and there and pulls. Because the next part we got to do is it's got to come around that throttle right there. It includes a cable lock to hold this in place once you get it where you need it. So I'm going to go grab that. We'll figure that part out here in just a moment. Now take your cable stop that's included into the kit, stick it on like that, and let it run on down to where it needs to go. So right there it is. So then what we do is we take this end, loop it back through this right here. And once you got your loop made and your cable stops put in place, hold your throttle in place. Don't allow it to move. Grab hold of your cable and pull it tight. Because you're going to gain a little bit slack right here, which is fine. But what we're trying to do is create a loop on this end that will form. So whenever you take this off, you see it holds its shape a little bit. So now you can take this, squeeze it down. You'll take your throttle, pull it back a little bit, set it on there. Now you don't want this to pull too tight. So right here is where I'm going to start messing with my adjustment nut a little bit. I'm actually going to pull my adjustment nut back just a little bit because you don't want your cable to cause an idle issue. I mean, you don't want it so tight that's actually going to interfere with your normal everyday drive. So run that back a little bit. And put that in place. So now, even if it is a little bit tight at this point, my adjustment nut up here that you see sticking there right there, I can still run that in or pull it back a little bit to, you know, adjust my cable as I need to. Now what you want to do is clamp your cable stop down on your cable and leave your loop big enough that you can always take your throttle like right here and unhook it and turn it back loose. It's going to be right back in place. So I'm going to clamp that real quick. Now that I've got that clamped, basically what I used with these things right here, these are for crimping coax cable, like cable TV lines, stuff like that. But if you guys a pair of pliers, something like that has that compound jaw like this, it's a lot easier to squeeze that thing in place. So, you know, figure out what you can use to squeeze that down with and have it in place, ready to go. Because once you get your cable positioned, you want to clamp it down so your cable doesn't move and lose your adjustment. You take this, hook it back on, and let's see right there, I need to adjust my cable forward a little bit because the cable is actually too tight and it's pulling my throttle back a little bit. So now this is why you take your adjustment up here and run it inward a little bit. Because it's really easy to do whenever you're clamping it down thinking, oh yeah, I've got it perfect. But once you clamp it, then you realize you may have pulled or loosened this cable a little bit and knocked something out of adjustment. Now, check my throttle blade. Pull it like this, opens the throttle blade like this right here, closes the throttle blade. I've got no movement right here. So the cable itself is not pulling the idle open, not pulling the throttle blades open. Get a little bit more out of it. Here we go. So now just whenever I pull that cable just a little bit, it's going to pull the throttle. So I'm going to go in the Jeep, I'm going to pull my lever a little bit, and you can watch this move. And see, I've got my throttle opened up a little bit now. So now I'm going to push my lever back down on the shifter, and it'll close the throttle up. Then you check, make sure your throttle closed completely. And I've got plenty of slack. You feel the throttle blade moving. I mean, it's closed completely. So now what we need to do is figure out how to make sure the cable stays, because as you're driving down the road, and the throttle here, this is your foot throttle here, it pulls, you don't want that walking off like that. See what I'm saying? Now you could have brought this right here like a lot closer, but we'll figure that out. So we're going to make our cable stay on by doing this. Put it in place, take you a 5/16 washer, hang it right there. And this little key right here they include with the kit, slide that little key in place, and it'll hold that washer in place and won't allow that to come off, which therefore makes the cable stay in place. So as you're pressing on your throttle going down the road, the throttle will work back, your cable will flex back, and will not interfere with your everyday driving. So now we got to cut all this excess stuff off. And so whenever I work the lever, let's go inside, I'll work the lever. You see it opens the throttle, no problem. So now I'm going to get me a pair of my diagonal cutters and chop off this excess, and we're just starting up and test it out. So once you get your cable slack set up, get your 10mm wrench, tighten up that nut right there, that locks it all in place. Yay! So, let's start it up and play with the idle a little bit. So I've got her started up and running, and guess what? My tack decides it wants to be lazy. Check this out. It's just laying there. It ain't doing nothing. It says I ain't having it. So guess what? We'll do it this way. The camera normally does a very good job at picking up the RPMs, the sounds of the Jeep. So what we'll do is we'll set the camera up right here so if I can get a good shot for you. So I got the camera set up. I had to figure out how to make it stay put, and we got that part figured out now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this lever up. You'll hear the RPMs rise. Okay, notice how the lever didn't maintain the RPM where I stopped at. Here's what you do. Little adjustment screw right here, turn it towards you a little bit, tighten it up a little bit. But don't make it too hard, that makes it really hard to pull the lever. Look, Ma, no hands. Then push the lever back down. And right there, we're right back at factory idle. We'll bring it back up a little bit more just for the fun of it. Bring her back down. And there's little clicks. I'm not sure if the camera picks it up or not, but there's little clicky sounds inside this. It's like what you call detents. It'll come up to a point, it'll click, and you can freeze right there, and it'll hold it in place. Now another thing you can do, if you got your hand on the shifter and you want to use the hand throttle as your primary throttle control, take this, turn it forward, loosen it up, and you can use this like you can your foot throttle. Let it bring back to idle, and then if you want to use it for like throttle control for the air compressor, or you know you want using your clutch or slip the clutch to climb a hill or whatever, turn its back, snug it up. See, I need to snug it a little bit more because it's not maintaining exactly where I stop at. Bring it down a little more. Then bring back to idle. Now I'm going to use my foot throttle down here, and you'll see that everything maintains normal use. Pretty smooth, huh? Did you guys enjoy this little tutorial? If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Now here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take this video, which is your throttle control, I'm going to add it with the playlist for the onboard air compressor. Why? Because at idle, the onboard air compressor does a pretty decent job. But if you kick him RPMs up by 1500 RPMs, 2000 RPMs, something like that, it really throws out some air, okay? So I want to be able to control my RPMs to control how fast my compressor delivers the air. And I don't know when, so don't get all frantic on this. I want to figure out how to do an onboard welder as well. So again, I'll need to be able to vary my RPMs to vary my voltage to do an onboard welder. And whenever the time comes, I'll go play something like that, and I need the hand control for my throttle. It's going to be cool for that too. Now remember, whenever you put your cable around your throttle control out there on the throttle body, make it a little bit tight so that, me personally, I like my throttle controlled. When I first get the first few clicks pulling up on the lever, I'm starting to get throttle response. So the tighter you make that cable, the faster you gotta get your throttle response. But don't make it too loose, because then you may pull your lever all the way up and never really get any pull out of it. I showed you guys how to pull that cable up on the throttle lever to tighten it up, find the point you need, clamp it down, all that fun stuff. So just remember to do that. Get your 5/16 washer, put over that, put your little cotter key in place, and not cotter key, that little snap key, whatever it was called. So just remember those few little details and you're good to go. So if you guys enjoyed this video, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave us cool comments down below. Peace. Later, y'all. It's getting dark out here. The camera ain't working. I'm going inside. It's time to chill. Peace.